What's good, people? It's Dan with the Corporate Deep Beats. You're watching another tutorial on how to make hip hop beats. Today's beat is more on the sound of Travis Scott. I think it's the Butterfly Effect track that Travis Scott did. Really inspired me to create this beat. I'm a huge fan of Travis Scott. I think he's really talented. He gets himself in a lot of kind of mischief and stuff like that, but his music is just always interesting to listen to, and I find him as a as a rapper, and I find him good as a beat maker, and just also as just an overall kind of artist. He's just like the tracks that he first came out with, or like the instrumentals were just like three different beats within one song. There's a story behind everything. I think he's really, really talented. And I think it's the Butterfly Effect instrumental that kind of really influenced me in the creation of this particular beat. And you'll hear the similarities in it, but not directly copying it. You'll hear that it does have that kind of darkness to it, but it has an element of Travis Scott in there somewhere. Anyway, I think so. Anyway, so we start off with just having a quick listen of what the beat sounds like. I'll kind of skip through the verse as well, and I'll listen to the interlude section that comes in, which is kind of primarily the hook. And I'll pause it there because that is really the crux. That's the whole beat. It's the same thing repeated over and over again, and there is little sections that are different. There's some cuts here and there that kind of that break the sound. So little things like that come in, but the main section, you just heard it all. That's kind of like the hook. That bleeding scent that comes in the middle is the hook kind of the track. But you can kind of hear the elements of where I was going, the vibe of the Travis Scott sound in the beat. So let's start off with the verse instrumentation. What's that sound like? So there's 4 synths here. Okay, you can already hear it's kind of a transistor radio sound. It has this first sound called Stage MK Flanger, and we'll just kind of demo the MIDI. 1 second now. We'll just play a little, grab a little loop section of that. And it's just a simple little, almost nursery rhyme type melody, and it's played on an E piano, and that's within Logic. It's got some compression, channel EQ. We'll just take a look at the EQ. I won't kind of go into depth too much because I feel like I'm talking too long about some stuff. Doesn't need to be, just need to showcase what I'm actually doing. Cut off a little bit of 30 hertz, and boosted a little bit, 3K. And next sound is the transistor radio. That's in ESX in Logic, and there's a little bit of an EQ on that. Anything below 200 hertz is cut, and underneath 500 hertz and above 2K is boosted. 500 is cut. We'll hear what that sounds like. It's nice and clean though. It's a nice clean sound. It's a weird sound, but it's very clean. You know it's going to be easy to mix later on. Next one is the Ghost piano coming in. Again, such a nice clean sound. It's freaky, it's weird. Travis Scott kind of likes those kind of sounds. It's bussed out to some reverbs as well, but it's clean. Look at the EQ as well. We've kind of boosted at 2K, and we've cut a little bit. There was probably a weird sound kind of peeking through. We can just kind of see the difference between those two actually. So we'll just pull this back down and see why I kind of put those effects on it. And we'll play that. Bit dead. This is bringing up the highs a little bit more. And we'll just take off the amp, see what that makes a difference. Oh, the amp almost acts like a compressor. Oh God, the sound without the amp sounds terrible. It's nice and balanced. Ooh. Oh, it's so plucky. It's so aggressive with without the amp, the ensemble. It's a bit nicer without the EQ. I left on the EQ. But it's still kind of peeking through. I don't like it. And the compressor is on there as well. It's a bit lighter there again. I don't know why I have the tuner on there. Maybe it was from a previous synth. I'm not sure. But altogether, it sounds pretty nice. Yeah, and just listen to all the three again. I'll cut that out. And they all sound pretty basic, nothing crazy with them. Then I have a little pad sound that comes in that just kind of plays a drone sound, nothing crazy. It's just following it. It's kind of following it with bass notes basically. You can see that I pulled the notes over to overlap in sections as well, so they don't kind of cut each other off as well. Cancel. This is sound and sculpture within Logic. Again, it's a standard stock synth within Logic. Some amazing sounds in Logic. Now you can really build some great instrumentals with Logic. Even with the contacts, with all that, sometimes too much stuff kind of really bogs me down. I just kind of stick to what I know. I have like a couple of synths there for a long time. Plus I built up some libraries as well that I tend to use as well. And I've tweaked some presets as well to my own liking. And that's a really nice little sound now. It just fills what I actually wanted to do. Kind of almost sounds like a Mission Impossible, doesn't it? It kind of does have a little bit of Mission Impossible sound there. This is some kind of weird synth called C-Beams. I don't even know where I got that from. We'll just kind of move that in, see what it sounds like. And that's following the same pattern as the distant air. But it's just kind of some weird glittery sounds within. It's just some stock sounds within Logic. C-Beam stock sounds. Ooh, don't want that. And it has some kind of different pads, glitter layer. It's just an amalgamation of different sounds. I just use it as effects. Instead of using effects samples, I just kind of found this little synth, and it keeps everything in key as well. Plus it hides the quietness in the background. Then again, there's some kind of little weird vocal samples here in this as well. Let's see what they sound like. We'll see what I did with them. Okay, I pitch shift some of those as well. I boosted some of the highs in there, cut some of the lows in that little vocal chop. We'll just see what kind of stretching, but there's nothing really to it. It's just a little sample that I found. And I've kind of put some pitch bend on them. That you probably heard that sound in some pack somewhere, and I've kind of tweaked it. I've just lowered it down, put some slow pan with delay on it. Space Designer, put some standard reverb on it as well. And that's pretty it for the little vocal samples. Nothing really to those vocal samples, and they kind of just come in and out of the mix. They're not prominent. They're kind of used as effects as well. I think a lot of hip hop beats these days tend to use flipped, reverbed kind of vocal samples or vocal chops and use them in as almost sounds within the beat. Bryson Tiller's tracks or Drake's songs tend to have that kind of flipping a vocal sample into the beat as well, or kind of using them as little effects. Just like in the 90s or in early 2000s, gun sounds were used a lot in hip-hop beats. Now it's kind of vocal chops in the beat. It seems to be the predominant kind of method for little effects or little kind of differentiations within a beat. Then it kicks into the drums. Take a look at the kicks. Okay. Sticking. Okay, and you can hear there's a lot of reverb on the snare. And we'll just go back now a second now. We'll just go back to the snare. And that's bust out to the reverbs and channel EQ. Sorry about that, 1 second now. And we've hi-hats in there as well. Hi-hats have a lot of reverb on there as well. And there's a really reverb clap on that last note. And that just kind of impact on the beat as well. It's very impactful on the beat. Nothing major there. It's a bit basic. Listen to it all together. And you can hear the reverb in the background. Sounds pretty cool. And that kind of stadium sound. And we can see our synths coming in back in again. And then our bass sounds come in this section. So the bass sounds kind of really drive the whole beat. There's some overdrive on the bass as well. This is called retro. No, this is called Tag Moon. It's a sample in Alchemy in Logic. It's got some overdrive on it as well. We'll just listen to that on its own. And it's a nice rounded kind of aggressive 80s synthesizer sound. It doesn't really sound like a modern bass. Plus, I kind of gave a lot of the low ends to this bass sound. And that's just a deep sub bass within Logic as well. Or yeah, it's called deep sub bass. You can see our EQ is standard 808 kind of EQ that I use, and together they just sound round and they kind of sound well mixed. We kind of just play them together. Okay. And you can hear all those sounds together now. And there's a lot of space in this mix. There's a really lot of space in this mix for any rapper to come in. The bass kind of dips out. And then the bass comes back in again. And then the violin section comes in here. There's 3 violins here. And they play in this little section. They kind of play this staccato kind of sound. I'm not going to go into each one. I'm just going to show you all 3 of them together because they're all playing the same thing really. It all plays this staccato sound. And there's a nice cleanliness to that strings all together. Maybe on their own they sound a bit basic. It's a bit light on its own. And then all together they sound much. But what they add to the beat is a tension. They kind of add the dramatic effect on the whole beat, so it builds up the aggression in the tonality of the rapper's voice. It could give the rapper a cue that this is the time to get into the hook as well. There's multiple different reasons why I put those strings in. Number one, they sound so clean in the mix, plus they help me glide into this section here, which is the lead trap synth. And I'll just play that section for you. I felt like there was something lacking in the mix of the beat, but I didn't want this sound bleeding through the whole mix. I kind of just wanted to keep it in a little tight section, in a little loop, because I don't want it, because you got sick of that sound over and over again, that bleeding kind of synth, that very sharp synthesizer cutting through the mix, but it comes in perfectly because of the introduction to the tension built by the strings. So I'll just play the strings and then I'll play that 808 synth, or not that 808 synth, but that aggressive synthesizer. And it sounds a little bit nastier in the mix. It sounds a bit cheesy on its own there, if I have to be honest. But we'll just play one on its own. It's almost like an alarm. It sounds like an alarm in the track. But it really cuts into the whole section of this track. We'll just play the in section of these strings again. And then for the rest of the track, it's pretty the same thing over and over again. I did show you that at the start of the beat that I cut little things out and just let the reverb of the snare kind of ring through with the mix there. And they're little tricks that I kind of do all the time. I kind of like those kind of little tricks. And sometimes I usually use them before I hit the chorus, but this time I just used it in the middle of the verse. This section here, I just took out the kicks, just to add a little difference in different verses. That's all, a subtle little difference. And then the outro of this beat has that bleeding synthesizer playing out as well. And that's really it. That's the whole crux of that Travis Scott type beat. Just let you know if there's any kind of drums or any kind of questions you have, leave them in the comments. Hopefully I kind of shared everything in the beat. I don't want these videos to go on too long because I didn't realize in the previous videos that they were getting beyond 30 minutes, which I think is a bit too much. But sometimes I don't want to let stuff out. So if there's something you need me to cover in any of the beats that I make, just let me know in the comments. Use the description in the video and the corresponding blog post to kind of find out a little bit more about the beats that I make. This beat is available at thecorporatebeatbeats.com. And thanks for watching, and I'll check you out in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye.